In this week's episode of Exhibitionist, we're going from the super huge to the teensy tiny. It's all about scale. We'll visit the young artists creating small sculptures with a big imagination. We'll meet the team behind a massive fire-breathing metal dragon. We'll join two photographers trying to capture an entire city block before it disappears. We'll delve into the surprisingly satisfying art of tiny paper sculptures. And we meet an artist who transforms graffiti into massive 3D structures that have superstars like Drake as fans. Hello and welcome to CBC Arts Exhibitionists, the TV show dedicated to introducing you to the coolest people in the world, artists. I'm your host, Amanda Paris. 12-year-old Callum Donovan Grujicich may be the smallest artist on today's episode, but his big imagination definitely makes up for it. He creates these spooky and intricate little sculptures using found materials like pieces of metal and clothing, basically anything he can get his hands on. Take a look.
My name is Callum Donovan Grujicich. I'm 12 years old and I make figurative sculptures. I've always loved art, especially sculpture. I started making things when I was about 2 years old. I made sculptures out of fabric, things like wool. I started experimenting with making my own clay out of toilet paper, drywall compound, mineral oil, and glue, and that worked pretty well. I find it more interesting to put a bunch of different materials together. So I had the idea to make these sculptures out of lots of materials. I had to figure out how to make them because I'd never seen anything like this before. After a while, they evolved into what I make now. Sometimes I just get a picture in my head and then I sculpt it. Often, though, I find some piece of metal or something first, and that inspires me. Then the sculpture comes from that. I like to use a lot of found objects. Whenever I go outside, I'm always scavenging for bits of metal. I'm always looking on the ground for them. People often ask me what certain sculptures mean, but I don't like to talk about meaning. I want people to decide what they think it means instead of me telling them. I prefer to express myself through art rather than through speaking. I know some people find my work dark and scary, but I don't at all. I like things that look kind of old-fashioned. When I grow up, I want to go to art school and be a professional sculptor and have a sanctuary for neglected animals.
Throughout the episode, you're going to see artwork that comes with no explanation, rhyme, or reason. It's just here because we think these gifts are really cool. This week's exhibitionist in residence has created work for the New York Times, GQ magazine, and Simon & Schuster. Please meet Lauren Tamaki.
I'm your exhibitionist in residence this week, and you're going to be seeing gifts I made for my sketchbook. You can check out more of my stuff at laurentamaki.com, and I'm at Lauren Tamaki on everything else, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff, so enjoy.
If you've ever dreamed of becoming the mother of dragons, I'm a huge Game of Thrones nerd, you may want to check out this next group. They've built a fire-breathing metal dragon that traversed Canada before reaching its final mystical destination, the Nevada desert at the iconic Burning Man Festival. Take a look.
Simon, did you take this video that I'm watching right now? I haven't even seen this. Oh man.
I got a couple in slow motion too.
Everything that I look at, I know exactly how it was built. I know what piece I burned myself on. I know what piece someone cut themselves on. But yeah, there's a lot of history in this thing already. My name is Kevin Bracken, and I am a lead of Heavy Meta, which is Toronto's fire-breathing dragon art card. The name Heavy Meta is a reference to the 1981 animated film Heavy Metal, which is a Canadian film. And in the last story, the last member of a warrior race named Tarna avenges the death of a race of philosophers that were carried on by these sort of anti-intellectual tyrants. And so we believe that the era that we're entering into now is sort of an anti-intellectual tyranny phase. My wife Marie and I built an art car last year called the Prodigal Swan. And the Prodigal Swan was amazing and beautiful, but the problem was it could only hold 6 people. And we have a huge crew, so we decided that we needed to step up our game.
I did the initial sketches after last year's successful build of the Prodigal Swan. I wanted to go even bigger and came up with the dragon idea because it's very similar in the style, but has several new elements. And I wanted this machine to be more animatronic.
This is the culmination of many, many months of work. We're in the shop every day, 7 days a week, from about 1 to 10, sometimes until midnight or 2 a.m. And then we go to sleep, and then we wake up, and then we do it again every single day. One thing that is, I think, really interesting about the people that come to the shop is that the majority of them are women.
You know, working with power tools and making something out of nothing is just really satisfying.
I think I just love the collaboration. I love how there's never one person doing one job. Even though I'm doing fire, I'm also cutting sheet metal or cutting patterns or just welding. Everybody here can do any role. There's nobody designated to one task, and I think that's what makes this so collaborative and so much fun.
Creating the community and giving someone a bigger project to work towards that they can all feel like they contributed in, I think that's it's a really nice feeling. It's like family.
When you find something that you really love creatively, it's really hard to not want to do it. And even if you miss out on a day of work, even if you're, just doing it for the fun, even if it's just a reason to wake up in the morning, it's just this is so exciting to do, and there's so much energy here, and it's great.
Canada has been very good to me since I moved here. I moved here 12 years ago during the Bush administration, and it's really helped all my dreams come true. Part of this is us investing in Toronto and investing in Canada and really giving back to a place that has given us a lot. And so when we're done with this, it's just going to be the most incredible sight everywhere we go, is we're going to be bringing a giant fire-breathing dragon all over Canada.
It's bringing together so many really great artists and really skilled people, and I'm really hoping that it inspires more people in Toronto to do the same.
The budget for this project is about $40,000, and art cars routinely put their creators into deep debt. But at the same time, it gives us purpose and meaning, and honestly, I can't think of anything else I would rather do.
So up next is 2 photographers fighting gentrification with their photography.
Yeah, I really like that piece. So important. Archiving is really important.
Is it archiving or is it archiving? Because
it's
chives.
Definitely archiving, and I'm pretty sure you're the only person who asked that question.
Not the only.
Gentrification, revitalization, redevelopment, no matter what you call it, when an old neighborhood is being changed, its history often gets lost. Our CBC Arts correspondent, Joella Caballu, fell in love with Main Street when she moved to Vancouver. And today, she's introducing us to 2 photographers, making sure Main Street's magic is never forgotten.
Main Street, the lifeblood of Vancouver's coolest and most creative neighborhood. But I'm a little biased because this has been my home for the last 8 years. And in that short amount of time, the neighborhood has changed dramatically. Documenting that change is the team behind the photo series Disappearing Main Street, photographer David Nidry and Jen Acresco.
My name is David Nidry, and I'm a photographer, and I photographed the Disappearing Main Street project.
I'm Jen Acresco, and I was a collaborator on Disappearing Main Street.
Disappearing Main Street is a documentary photography project, just capturing Main Street as it was in the summer of 2011. So 32 blocks from 2nd Avenue to 33rd, both sides of the street.
We had both been living on Main Street for some time and had been noticing a lot of change to the neighborhood.
There were some big developments that looked to kind of change the shape of the neighborhood, bring in a lot more people, and sort of change the commercial heart of Main Street.
You take them for granted every day walking past them. They are there so many days of your life, and then suddenly they're gone. And we felt like we just needed to hold on to it for a moment or as long as we could.
So yeah, we're here having coffee at Bean Around the World. It's on Main and 20th Avenue. Around, it's become a gathering point for people. We were fortunate to have our photo show here as well, so it's been a really receptive place for neighborhood news and community events and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, in about 4 days, it's closing for good. This block, this entire block, is going to be demolished and turned into a condo. It's possible a place like this could show up again in the new development in 18 months' time or 2 years' time or whatever, but I think it's not just having like a coffee place. It's kind of like a little mini community center for people, and there's a few of these kind of places scattered along Main Street that have that importance for the community, I think, so.
A neighborhood should have a feeling like you know where you are, know where you belong, you know? Yeah. And those photographs are awesome because you get to see some of your favorite spots.
Right.
It's the neighborhood that I have chosen to remain living and working in, and I'm not sure for how much longer that's going to be possible.
Yeah. We have been compelled to take more photos as the years go by, just to document the changes, whether they be small or large, depending on the block.
So yeah, the project's going to keep evolving as Main Street will continue to evolve and change.
We could keep capturing because, what our Main Street was is totally different to somebody else. Everybody's Main Street is their own Main Street.
Sometimes the most satisfying art is also the tiniest. This next artist works in the medium of subtractive art. She crafts miniature paper sculptures, art so small it can blow away. Take a look.
In paper cutting, you work with negative space, so it's a subtractive medium. You're taking away what isn't supposed to be there.
Today, I'll be cutting a miniature house. I begin by sketching the design.
Paper is an interesting material in that it's basically everywhere. It wraps chopsticks, it's on receipts, it's just on every printing surface. It's such a quotidian material, so bringing it into light, exploring the sculptural possibilities of paper. I can physically cut away at something to the point where it's barely even there anymore. In 2015, I began Tiny Blades project. I basically said at first that I would cut something out of paper every day for 365 days and post it on the internet, so I would be accountable for it. And I think I'm on around day 650. A huge reason why I began this project was to sort of make myself do something every day, and how much the process of making work can be more important than the idea of a product. I think a low point would be any time that, I felt creatively stuck for a long period of time, or perhaps insecure that I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not blank enough, like resourceful enough or creative enough. I think I got through a lot of it by kind of just realizing that I should just get to work rather than completely figure out who I was before getting started. I think that happens as a result of becoming an artist, not the other way around. I find inspiration by observing the world around me, so sometimes it can be a form that I wouldn't have noticed if I weren't sort of actively looking for something, and I might manipulate it in my mind or repeat the form like hooks on a mailbox or the prongs of a fork and just turn it into something that doesn't seem recognizable but was still like the very root of the inspiration behind that piece. At first, when I was doing it, I was like, I can't wait until I'm near the end of the project because it was so intimidating. But I was surprised by the amount of momentum that I still had in making this work, and it just didn't feel right at that point to stop.
Okay, up next we have a piece about Kwest.
Oh yeah, his work is so cool.
Did you know he made a ping pong table for Drake?
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's amazing.
You know Drake, right?
I don't know him.
Come on.
Just met him a few times.
What's he like?
I don't know. I don't know him.
Do you think he'd like my art?
He cut up Jordans to make a winged sculpture. He built a custom ping pong table for Drake, and he's constructed the largest graffiti sculpture in the world. The resume of Brian Leitch, aka Kwest, is unlike anyone else's. And today, he brings us his most personal piece yet. Check it out.
My name is Brian Leitch. I was born in Toronto, St. Mike's Hospital. I was adopted a couple days after birth. I went to Humberside Collegiate, which was a very academic school, and I think at the time was not the right school for me. I needed to use my hands, build things, make things. So it was tough going through high school. I didn't do well. I actually have never graduated high school. I was one credit off, which was like a grade 9 English, and they just wouldn't give it to me. I moved out of my house when I was young, and partially because, you know, I was just in the wrong place. So I kind of had to make my own place. If you would look at my sort of style, I've always been a very progressive person. I always wanted more challenge. As a kid, my dad introduced me to woodworking at a really young age. It just made sense to me at the time that, you know, these other skills that I had learned in building, why not transfer those into graffiti? I had been getting into trains quite a bit. When I started riding a lot of trains, sort of being a hobo or a tramp, I needed to have like a little alias. So it became the Thunderbird. Drake's really into ping pong. Can you make a sculptural ping pong table? And I was like, wow. Do you want it to be flat? Like, you know, what are we talking about? Like, do you want banks and stuff so you can hit it off things? And I mean, the top end was really a custom ping pong table. The real fun for me was the bottom end, the legs, where I was able to like do sculptural form. I think we played one game and he probably skunked me. That was in Denmark at a music festival called the Roskilde Festival. I just said I want to build the biggest graffiti letter sculpture ever made. And I spent about 14 days in a warehouse building this thing. A couple nights I would sleep actually in the letters. You know, they'd come in and it'd be on my E, you know. We did have it sold to a children's school on one of the southern islands, and we sold it to them for $1, as long as they would pay for the shipping. Today I'm just finishing up working on this large letter sculpture. The piece I did in Denmark was just my name. This one here, it's going to be spelling out truth. Each letter will have a button that will trigger the lighting and 1/5 of a sound from a score. I'm working with 40 from OVO. He's doing the composition of the piece. It's all in the eye of the beholder. You know, some people will look at a tag and say that's garbage. Other people will say that's the most beautiful thing I've seen.
Thank you so much for joining me here on CBC Arts Exhibitionists. I'll be back again next week with even more incredible artists, from Cathedral Grove to Flowers Cove. Until then, keep creating and innovating. Peace.
Awesome show, way to go.
Thank you.
I really like that Annyen lamb commitment, like 365 days of doing art every day.
I definitely tried that and did not succeed.
Okay, so what did you try?
Okay, not art, but I tried working out and I tried writing,
those
failed on both fronts.
Yeah, those are hard.
How about you? Have you ever tried it?
I want to tell you, but you're gonna laugh at me.
I'm not gonna laugh.
Okay, so you know how Kwest had his art bought by Drake?
Okay.
So every day I've been trying to make art that Drake will buy. You can't laugh. You can't laugh, camera guy. Hey, Drake, if you're watching, I have 363 paintings of you and me like this for you.
Run, Aubrey, run.
Aubrey, you know him.
I don't know him. I don't know.
You said Aubrey.